Hello. Hey, what's up? What's happening? Anyway, so it took me a while. We're going a little early. Anyway, so we're back to chapter 9 of Mulligan Stew. And this chapter is called She is the Queenly Pearl. Kind of an odd. So, yeah, this chapter is pretty wild. It's about 50 pages. It's one of the longer chapters. And it just kind of um, goes into this whole kind of crazy bit about Daisy and stuff. So yeah, this is chapter 8. She's the Queen of Pearl. Let me just mention some other books. There's that other book, Aberration of Starlight. Here's like the kind of like who is this? Yeah, Penguin published this, and I think it came out in a hardcover too. But Penguin came out with this around 1980, and his later book was Odd Number. I got another copy. I remember reading this when it first came out. And it got a lot, as I remember, it got a lot of good reviews and stuff. And there's another picture of Sorrentino there. So, getting to Mulligan Stew, yeah. So, she's the Queen of the Pearl. So sometimes he writes these. Anthony Lamont writes these little chapters that are pretty short. This one's almost like 10 pages, and it's just all kind of crazy. And it seems like Martin Halpern and Daisy are going out now. So, and then we get to Lamont's scrapbook here. I wrote a journal, but so he finds this little story about how an author falls asleep and wakes up and finds a new novel. He wrote a novel in his sleep. So that's pretty funny because like that's kind of like this book. And then we get to Halpern's journal, and he goes. So Halpern's talking about the chapter, chapter 8, I guess. Our gifted creator must be turning this thing into a comic novel, or else he's losing his mind. This reminiscence of the evening with Daisy is beyond comment. Whatever he has against this girl, it's hard to say. Not that I did not act the imbecile. Where did he get that language? But to have her say those things, it wasn't even burlesque. And Ned was right. He hasn't had to call the police. I began to feel sorry for him. Ned has no mercy. At one point, went out of the house when he was supposed to be on the bookcase. Two things to note: Ned found a door for some reason. So they're in the cabin, and they're finding more rooms and stuff, and they're finding a bunch of books and stuff. So it's pretty funny. So that's what Halpern's. And so, in Halpern's journal, they find a manuscript of impressions by a disappointed author, and it has just like a bunch of fake facts and sayings and stuff, and stuff like a sample sentence would be: Elaine Rowe Gray's novels can be read as a reworking of Charlie Chan plots. What if Proust had remembered the taste of Yankee Doodle? So there's like a few pages of that, just like all these kind of questions and fake facts. W.B. Yeats's favorite song was McNamara's Band. And then for some reason we're back at Halpern's notebook and his journal. It's kind of interchangeable. Then he's Lamont himself is like questioning the title. She is the Queenly Pearl. I don't even know where this title came from. Seems like his writing is just kind of getting out of control here. There's no way for me to judge this purple, elegant language, although silly, ludicrous. Yeah, first he's like kind of like saying it's kind of like silly, but maybe he has a few drinks and then he's like going, maybe what he has to do is like change the title of the book to Crocodile Tears. And then he's like, what I got to do is like change the title and send this chapter to Roach. So, because he's like all upset about Dermot Trellis. He's competing with Dermot Trellis, and he's thinking about doing a rewrite of the whole book, and he's calling it Crocodile Tears now. And then he writes a letter to Roach, and he's like talking about he's still mourning how Roach doesn't like deuces, three deuces, and he likes Dermot Trellis's books too much, and then so he's going, yeah, maybe you're right about three deuces, but check out my new chapter of my new novel, Crocodile Tears, and yeah, and then he starts going on about this editor Vance Whitestone, who turned down three deuces years ago, and how he's like sucking up to Dermot Trellis now. And there's a letter from Vance Whitestone. And then there's an introduction to Dermot Trellis written by Vance Whitestone, which is kind of like a how great he is. Maybe it could be like an article in a journal or something. And then we get like a bunch of letters from kind of love interest for Anthony Lamont. He goes back to My Dear Joan. This is the second letter. I think there was a previous. She's a married woman, and they had some kind of fling or something, and then he's trying to rekindle the thing, and so he writes a picture, and then he's then he's going on about his competition with Dermot Trellis, and then we get this like anonymous sketch, which kind of seems like a piece written by Lamont just to make fun of people, and it's it talks about Richard. It mentions Richard Detective, Sheila Henry. We hear and just and then so we get and then it's sort of like this sketch that he's just making a bunch of fun of a bunch of things. It seems like it's him writing anonymously. And then we have like a letter to Miss Flambeau. This is like the third letter. So yeah, they obviously have, there was the one before he read the poems, and then the one they had kind of a bad date. And then this one, it goes on like, first of all, I think that you must admit that your actions or words last night did not square with the sensual and exciting woman whose voice is heard on the Sweat of Love. A matter of plain fact, it even crossed my mind that you are not the author of those lusty and throbbing poems. Surely your unnaturally frigid, overly demure and even insulting behavior last night belies the thrilling desires and free spirit revealed in your lines. If you are Sweat's author, and sadly, I know, despite my momentary doubt that you are, then I must plainly say that you are rather a fraud, somewhat like a nature poet who drives into a field in his car and from a roll down window contemplates the nature wonders surrounding, then fills up a page in his notebook. Do I make myself clear? So yeah, I remember reading that part. So it's a pretty long letter. He's like just kind of thrashing into her, like, oh yeah, maybe I could have helped you in your career, but he's just kind of, there's more details about the date, about how he was trying to get her drunk and he was grabbing her, and he she called him a dirty old boob, and yeah, it's pretty funny. So yeah, I got the Laura Flint Bogut letter goes on for a while, and then we get back to Halpern's journal, and he's talking about he's basically saying Anthony Lamont is like totally forgotten about them, and they're just going through all the rooms and looking for things and stuff, and they find a bunch of books, and then there's all these weird books. Lick Up a June Beat by DeRusse Kingsley, Chillers on the Chain, Mildred Haviland, The Pig Leap by Christopher Lavery, Harewell, My Dove, James Bent. I guess they're like The Dry Minnow by Floyd Greer, The Daddy and the Drake. I guess they're playing off of like some kind of noir novels or something. Bubble in My Fizziness. Yeah, and then I guess it's a catalog, and it's maybe Ned Beaumont and Halpern are the publishers of these books and so, these imaginary books. And he goes, so much for the catalog. The rest of the day was spent leafing through new books we found. And then they start hanging around the Western guys, Deuces Noonan, Sundog O'Harity, Black, Danny McGlade. And yeah, they're just, and then yeah, it's kind of a weird chapter that it ends. It just this like there's all these like kind of non sequitur sentences. Did he rock determinedly? He did. Sometimes hypnotically. Did his staring eyes look at nothing? They did. A fixed stare. It's kind of like Joy. It's kind of Joycean. They're kind of like it's this kind of weird kind of novel thing. So they went for another hour or two, and we were still at it when Ned and I took our leave of them and started back to the cabin. Their flippant cynicism truly depressed me. Yet I mentioned to Ned that despite their contempt for the work that they had done all their lives, they had no intention of deserting their current job, as he was thinking of doing and urging me to do. He went on telling me and Mr. Shandy and Emma Bovary, people who had never worked again after their initial jobs. Yeah, so yeah, this is a pretty wild chapter. It's among my favorites. Yeah, 4, 5, 7, and 8. Yeah, this has a lot of good stuff in it. Some of the writing gets better. And I was looking at the next one. So, and the chapter that's supposed to be part of the novel, The Guinea Red, now called Crocodile Tears. It's kind of like this romance. It just becomes like this romance novel, or it's almost like, what came before? It started at like 226. She is the Queenly Pearl. Yeah, and that chapter was pretty crazy. So, yeah, the Wood So Well. Oh yeah, that was like a real short. That was one of those short chapters where they're at the Zap Club and barely anything happens. Halpern's like looking, kind of looking around for Ned or something, or helping Ned. Anyway, so yeah, that's the 8th chapter, and we'll get to 9. Yeah, I'm taking classes, and we're on the 5th week. I just took an exam today, so I hope the rest of the week is better than that exam. And so, I suggest also read this. This great. We're going to be doing some interviews next week. So, around the 1st of October, close, around the beginning of the month, or maybe even late September, and we'll be talking about this book and Flawless Play Restored by Sorrentino. It was put out by Black Sparrow Press. And Splendid Hotel it's like you should, if Mulligan Stew is too much for you, just read Splendid Hotel. It's like a miniature version, and it kind of hits on some of the same themes. Okay, so so that gets us up to page 278 with 278. Maybe 180 pages to go. So we're getting there. So this book, it's a book that, I mean, if you read like 3 chapters, you kind of like go, you think it's what's the deal, but I mean, the letters to Roach and the letters to Sheila and these love letters to these kind of women that show no interest in him. I mean, those are kind of interesting in themselves. The chapters and the characters kind of hold it together. I don't know if this is like a proper novel or a dossier novel or a scrapbook, or all 3. I mean, it's definitely an interesting book, and as you get more into it, you it just becomes more like the normal, the more normal, and and I don't know. Yeah, I was like thinking like, there's this whole idea of male toxicity, and maybe that has something to do with this book, or maybe it has a lot to do with a lot of books, because like there was like things like Clockwork Orange or the films of Scorsese, or Pale Fire. Not Pale Fire. Well, Pale Fire to an extent, but definitely Lolita, and there's other books from the 70s and 80s where like these characters have like some kind of mad plan that they're following. They have it's like this kind of craziness kind of unfolds in front of them, like, and they follow this path of insane path that they can't help themselves, basically. Okay, so you can see my T-shirt here. Anyway, I saw. Also, I just mentioned I saw Swans like 2 times this past week. Went to a lot of shows. I mean, there's it's September, so September and October are some of the biggest months for rock shows. So, I'll probably see you. I might go to one tomorrow, and so I might. There might be another one. I might get to chapter 9 like this week, maybe on Friday. Okay, take care, everyone.